Halfway up the doorframe, in soft graphite that never quite committed to the wood, there is a ladder of little lines. Each one has a date beside it, written smaller each year as the handwriting steadied. The lowest mark is barely off the floor. The highest stops abruptly, as if the person measuring simply left one afternoon and forgot to come back. Someone is about to paint over them. The roller is already loaded, the tray skinned with primer the color of nothing in particular. It moves in slow vertical strokes, and the marks vanish under a wet gray film. First the top ones, the tall stranger you became, then the middle, then the very first, the one that meant you could finally stand on your own. Look closer before it dries. Those lines were the only physical evidence, anywhere in the universe, that you had been exactly that tall on exactly that day. Not the tallest, not remarkable, just true. And now they are gone in the time it takes to whistle. The room does not resist. It has held 1,000 nights of you, and it lets go without a sound, the way a hand relaxes in sleep. So here is the quiet question, while the primer sets. If the walls never really kept you, then where exactly did all those years go? The house is on Ellsmere Road, third from the corner, and it sold in 9 days. The new family is called something you'll never learn. The father, a man named Peter Osei, who fixes MRI machines for a living, is the one holding the roller, because paint is cheaper than a painter, and the closing cost more than he said out loud. He works methodically, top to bottom, and he does not know about the doorframe. To him, it is just old pencil someone was too lazy to clean. He primes over it at 9:40 on a Saturday morning, and never thinks of it again. He is not cruel. He is just not in on it. That is the first strange thing about the room that knew you best. It never actually knew anything. Drywall does not remember. The window that framed 400 sunsets you watched instead of sleeping did not watch a single one of them back. The corner where you cried after the thing you still won't say the name of felt nothing, held nothing, filed nothing away. A room is a box of still air and painted gypsum, and it is exactly as attached to you as the elevator you rode this morning. And yet, try to believe that. Really try, standing in the doorway of the place, and something in you refuses, because you can still find the light switch in the dark with your eyes closed. You know the exact groan of the third floorboard, the one you learned to step over at 2 in the morning so no one would hear you come in. You know which corner of the ceiling had the water stain shaped like a rabbit, and how the glow-in-the-dark stars your father stuck up in 2009 kept a faint green ghost long after the plastic had yellowed and half of them had fallen. That knowledge is so detailed, so bodily, that it feels like it must live somewhere out there, pressed into the walls like a fingerprint. It doesn't. It lives in you. All of it. Every last floorboard groan. That is the trick the room plays, and it plays it on everyone. You walk into a childhood bedroom and you feel remembered, feel held, feel witnessed, and the whole time you are the only witness in the room. The space you credit with shaping you was never a keeper of records. It was a mirror. You poured yourself into it for 18 years, and it gave your reflection back so faithfully that you mistook the glass for a friend. So when Peter Osei paints it accessible beige for his daughter, who is 6 and afraid of the dark, and will fill this exact air with an entirely different life, he is not erasing your memories. He can't reach them. They were never on the walls to begin with. He is only taking away the mirror. And that, it turns out, is almost worse. Because a mirror is where you go to check that the old version of you still exists. As long as the room sat there unchanged, same water stain, same crooked closet door, same particular slant of 4 o'clock light across the carpet, you could return and find proof of continuity. See, you could tell yourself, that person was real. I have somewhere to point. Now the pointing finger lands on a stranger's beige wall, and the person you're pointing at has no address anymore. She lives at no coordinates. She exists in precisely one place, and that place is the soft gray tissue behind your own eyes. And it is the least permanent archive ever built. Consider what that means, quietly, for a second. Every room you have ever loved is a rented recording device that recorded nothing. The memories you feel most sure are stored out in the world, in the kitchen where your grandmother hummed, in the classroom that smelled of pencil shavings and radiator dust, in the back seat of a car that went to the scrapyard a decade ago. None of them kept a bite. You are carrying the only copy. You have been carrying the only copy the whole time, and you called it homesickness. And you thought the ache pulled you toward a place. It doesn't. It pulls you toward a self. There is a second family here worth mentioning further back. Before you, this room belonged to a boy who grew up in the 1980s and measured his own height on that same doorframe in ballpoint pen, until his mother scrubbed it off in a rage over the ruined paint, and he cried and never told anyone why. His marks are gone too. His name is on no wall. When your parents moved in, the room was blank and smelled of fresh latex, and it felt, to a 5-year-old you, like it had been waiting your whole life just for you. Like it began the day you arrived. It hadn't. You were the second draft written over and erased first, and Peter's daughter is the third. And she will feel the same certainty you did, that this beige square of air was made for her, and remembers her, and always will. She is wrong the same way you were wrong. That is not a tragedy. That is how the mirror works. It has to feel like the first time, or it wouldn't hold anyone at all. Here is the part that stays with me. The room forgot you without a flicker, but only because it never learned you in the first place. The forgetting was not an event. There was nothing to lose on its end. All the losing happens on yours, and it happens slowly, on a schedule you don't control. Already the exact shade of that ceiling rabbit is blurring. Already you're not sure if the stars were above the window or beside the closet. The archive is failing, gently, the way all the archives fail. And there is no second copy anywhere in the world to check yourself against. Peter Osei finishes the second coat by 2 in the afternoon. The room is uniform now, seamless, the door frame smooth and pale, and if you ran your fingernail along it, you would feel nothing but paint. His daughter comes in at dusk with a shoebox of small treasures and picks the corner by the window for her bed, the exact corner where yours once stood, for no reason she could name. That night she lies awake and afraid, and she stares up at a ceiling she has already begun to memorize without knowing she is doing it. And somewhere in the dark, her father reaches up on a stepladder and presses a handful of cheap plastic stars to the plaster, because that is what fathers do, and they glow faintly green. She will carry that ceiling out of this house someday, the only copy, and think it lived in the room. Go back to the doorframe one last time. the ladder of marks under all that new paint. Somewhere under the beige, invisible now, is the lowest line. The day you could finally stand on your own. Nobody will ever see it again. It didn't need to be seen to be true. It only needed you to have stood there. You are still standing there. That is the whole of it. The room let go of a person it never held, and you walked out carrying everyone you have ever been. And you called the weight of them loss, when the weight of them is the only proof you'll ever have that any of it happened at all. The primer is dry by morning. Somewhere a child is measuring herself against a doorframe, in soft pencil that never quite commits to the wood, writing the date smaller each year.